From Bias to Equality podcast is brought to you by the CEO Magazine, Holman Webb Lawyers, and B2Buy.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast From Bias to Equality. I'm your host, Sandra D'Souza. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are going to have a conversation with Divya Singh. Divya, CFO at Kerwin Rae, brings 21 years of finance and operations expertise. Her skills include strategy development, risk mitigation and management, and financial governance, particularly in rapidly expanding multi-jurisdictional businesses. Divya has played pivotal roles in guiding organizations through transformative international growth and substantial mergers. In her primary role as CFO, she collaborates closely with the executive team on business strategies and increasingly leads projects focused on business and talent enhancement. Her company, Kerwin Rae, is actually an Ellect Star recipient. It's an Australia's leading business strategist and high-performance specialist, and he is dedicated to helping people succeed through his revolutionary approach to business growth and personal transformation. The organization hosts specialized events featuring globally acclaimed speakers like Kerwin Rae, designed for business owners aspiring to succeed in both their professional ventures and personal lives. Hi, Divya. Thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast today.
Thank you, Sandra. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
It's I'm so excited because Kerwin Rae is an Ellect Star recipient, and to have you on this call, I'm looking forward to sharing what is it and how you have achieved that. But before we get started on that, let's talk about you instead and see and just really tell us, like, how did you get to your role where you are now from the beginning?
Yeah, sure. My goodness, that's been like many years ago. Feels like forever. I started pretty young, actually. So when I got my first job was straight after graduation. So I was actually in a final year of my doing accounting degree. And that's when I got approached for a grad role, a company called Cultivating. It's a marketing company. And I got a lot of exposure there, actually worked my way up for 2.5 years, the time that I was there. And after that, I moved to the IT sector, so worked there for a few years, and then financial services, then back to IT, and then last role where I was a good chunk of my career, actually, almost 8 years at the international law firm prior to joining Kerwin Rae. So in my last role, I was pretty happy with my role, getting a lot of exposure, and my boss at the time, the global CFO, and I were pretty much involved most of the year in M&A's activities. But I did feel a bit of a void in my career at the time, and also too, I was going through my personal growth journey as well. So that's where I really got involved personally. What's my purpose? What's my mission in life? And that's where, the podcasts were introduced back in 2013 or 12, I believe. Around that time, like they were becoming quite popular and stuff. So I started listening to like Oprah Winfrey, Jay Shetty, Tony Robbins. So I really aligned with their purpose and mission, and that really resonated with me. And as I was listening, so I started questioning, okay, what's next for me? And it's funny enough, a recruiter reached out to me for this role at Kerwin Rae here, and I say to everyone that I think I've manifested this role. And I still remember my final interview with Kerwin. And it was a very different interview format. And actually the recruiter warned me that, do not expect your corporate interview questions. It will be very different. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, how hard it can be. So it's fine. And the first question that Kerwin asked, I still remember till this day, was, Divya, tell me, what's your purpose in life? And I said, well, Kerwin, my purpose is helping people. And I did not know at the time, that's actually our company purpose. because I had no
Oh,
idea.
wow.
Yeah, I
Oh,
had no idea.
wow. So it's
Yeah.
not like you research
No,
beforehand and go,
well, I researched, but it wasn't there on the website. So
yeah, yeah,
actually, in
yeah.
our old office, as you walk in on the wall, we've got our 12 values there, and it actually talks about our purpose, mission, and our 12 values. And that's when I saw as I was walking out. So I was like, oh wow, that's
Okay.
interesting. Yeah. So I didn't know. But yeah, and it's been almost 5 years. I've been here at Kerwin Rae, and it has been quite a journey in a positive way. And yeah, still like every day is a new day where we learn and grow. So yeah, that's been my
That's
journey so
amazing.
far. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And so, and with your journey, it would be good to know from within the company in the last 5 years. Um, the company obviously has recently, and congratulations, being a
Thank
recipient
you.
of Ellect Stars. And for the
Thank you.
listeners, just a little reminder what Ellect Star is all about, that there are very straightforward criteria. And if you score at least 3, you qualify for it. And the 4 criterias are: have at least one woman CEO and CFO. So Divya obviously got that point. The second one is have one woman board chair. The third is at least 25% women on board of directors, and the fourth is at least 25% women on senior leadership team. So the fact that the company is a Ellect Star recipient, it would be good for the listeners to find out from you in terms of the culture. Was it something that has always been there at the beginning when you started, or did it evolve? I would love to hear more insights into that sort of like the culture environment.
Yeah, sure. Look, I believe it's organic, so it wasn't intentional at all that we want to reach gender equality and all that good stuff. It's just been organic journey because I think it starts from the top, and really the board exec team, they really set the standards. And in our company, I think it started from the CEO, Kerwin himself. He's been raised by a single mom, and he has seen those challenges. And again, this is just an assumption, because there is one question that I did ask Kerwin, which I'll read it out to you. He sent me that text, so I'll read it out to you in a minute. But
Okay.
so from that text, I'm saying this. So
Yeah.
obviously, he feels that female leaders are nurturing, and also, they can build a better organization, a safe place for everyone, and it should not be restricted. And I also think in our organization, we don't look for whether it's female, male. We look for who is a right fit for the culture. Culture is really important for us. And we do have 12 values that we practice every day. And we want to make sure someone who is aligned to it. So that also includes in all aspects of our business. So it's just not at the interview process, it goes beyond that. So even our interview process is quite inclusive, and where, you can see the diversity. And also, I mean, there are so many aspects I can talk about. Like, yes, if you look at our, for example, leadership team, it's 50% female. If you look at the exec, it's 66.67% female presence. So it is well diversified organically. And, when we are looking for a talent, it is very much around who is right for the role and who can do the job. There is no such thing as, okay, well, we are on a mission to achieve X or Y. So it's organic. And I do want to read Kerwin's, if that's okay. I did ask him, and I said, what would you advise the other CEOs as well on this, if I may ask? And his response was, it's a tough question. In all honesty, I never aspired to diversity. It was a natural consequence of gravitating towards the people with the values within the talent I work with. I was brought up by a single mom who was at times on a pension. So I value support and nurturing styles of leadership, as that tends to be my style based on a lot of my upbringing. And it would appear that women that I work with, especially at an executive level, happen to be naturally more nurturing and supportive of others. And I value that. And it would appear so do they. And it creates a great relationship dynamics that builds trust, loyalty, and durability.
Wow. That's it's interesting, and I thank you, by the way. Please thank Kerwin for sharing his advice and statement. I think it's interesting in terms of what you're saying, because you're saying we didn't need to do quota, we didn't need to have a target. It grew organically, and the culture mattered. But the culture that mattered was, I think, led to diversity because it appreciates the different perspective as well. It was a safe environment to bring different perspective, and that different perspective is valued and recognized. Where companies struggle with diversity, need target to help change that, to help shift that. And that's something that your company didn't need to do that because it naturally brought that. And that's my observation from doing, from various interviews and talking, to many CEOs in terms of how they go about approaching it. What's unique, I have to say, it's unique about your organization. Like, it was not unique because it comes from the top, because that is actually consistent with everyone. But it's very much that you're trying to, that the culture is saying, we want to bring the best out of everybody in order to make this organization work. And we can't do it if we all think the same and we're all the same.
Exactly. And if you look at the data and stats, what it shows, it's just not at I suppose, society level, where the countries who have gender equality in Europe, they are doing better. They are much more happier. But you even in general economic condition as well, like the organizations that you look at, how they perform. I mean, there are some data, public data available. If you have gender equality in your organization, they tend to perform better than companies where it's like a boys' club, as an example.
Yes.
So,
there is, and I actually recently presented about this one particular data, and there are lots of research, and you're absolutely right. And this particular one I got was a 2019 one from McKinsey, and it actually said that it showed the greater women representation you have in the senior leadership team, the better that the company performed. So if you have 30%, at least 30% or more, they perform better than the ones who have 10 to 30%.
Yeah, there you go.
But the actual, and then I had a number to say, and then if you compare the performance difference of no diversity to very diverse in terms of greater women representation, it was a 48% gap in performance.
Wow.
So that's what McKinsey have reported.
That's profound.
And that was the latest survey. There's lots of so it's not about doing good. This is a business podcast, and yes, it is talking about gender equality. And the book, very much when I wrote it, it was to find out how do you drive success, how do you drive profitability and innovation. And so research, and we don't need to be convinced, is all I'm saying. There's so much research,
and also too, it's like basic human rights. Everyone should be treated equally with respect. So we're not asking for much here.
I know.
It's interesting, but I do see that it's changing. But because interestingly, I was actually talking to one of my colleagues the other day about ASX listed organization, and I know in our Connect yesterday, the networking event, Sandra, that you mentioned in your speech as well, about the how restricted it is for female CEOs at the ASX listed. I suppose at ASX listed 20 companies, it's 25%, so it's gotten better. But if you look at ASX listed 200, it's like 10.5%. That's the data. Yeah, well, my colleague actually printed that for me, and he's like, "You should actually talk about this tomorrow with Sandra." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll mention it." But how interesting is that? Like, we've got a long way to go. I cannot believe we are in 2023 and we're still talking about this.
Yes. Yep.
So,
and then if you look at ASX 300 and also the research that we did of all of the ASX company, and by the way, we're not talking about ASX because we're targeting ASX. They actually do have some initiatives, but it seems to be common in a couple of, like, so far with other stock exchanges as well. But ultimately, it was less than 5%. So
less than 5%. Yeah, I agree, because and again, because that's the public data that's available, right? I can speak from my own experience as an example. To be honest, I did not have a female leader that could be my role model at the time, and I had to look elsewhere, as in internationally, to seek who can be like Michelle Obama, for example, being my role model, or Pepsi and Co. CEO, or ex-CEO Indra Nooyi. She probably was one of my role model, because my challenge here was just not getting a seat at the table as a female, but also women of color. Yeah. So I kind of see a lack there, and it's just, as a senior managerial position, it gets harder. So I think, personally, I believe my struggle was twice as hard, because being a female and then women of color, I have not seen much representation of that, and it gets really saturated as you go up in your career. And the female leaders I did have at the time that I was reporting to, very minimum, but confidence-wise, I felt like they lacked confidence. So, not ready to speak up because they were not given that proper platform. They were not nurtured. They were not appreciated. So I suppose they had their views on this, but I guess from an outsider's point of view, for me, it was a big struggle to find that role model. And where I am today, through my hard work, I feel like if I can change one life, as in one female's journey, I would be ever so grateful that I did something that could be my legacy. So I try to empower, just not within the organization, outside of the organization as well, in whatever way, shape, or form I could. Not necessarily so much in the leadership role, but also, like, I've got friends where, it is very male-dominated family members where my friend couldn't say much, as an example. So on those sort of areas as well, like, I empower and I give examples, and I just listen to them, and I think everyone wants to be heard. So once you hear them out, and then you put your perspective forward, which they didn't think of, actually helps. So it is just out. So I do not restrict just at organizational level, but also in general in society. I try to help as much as I can.
That's wonderful, Divya. I think you're not, for you, when it was, you talk about, like, it was challenging and you didn't have a role model. You realize that I don't want to call it pain, but the gap. But instead of ignoring it, you want to make it better for other women who are coming along in that journey, so that they don't have to go through the same pain that you have to go through. And that's really admirable, because it's quite easy to say, well, that was the problem I experienced, so be it, you guys just toughen up, it's just all part of life, which, I don't necessarily agree or disagree. It's a controversial topic sometimes in, among family when we discuss, but ultimately this is how we can, like you said, 2023, in order to see change, we all need to do it a little bit. And if you do your one live, I do my one live, someone else does it, that effect can all accumulate into massive change. And
absolutely. Absolutely. And exactly what, like, for example, the networking event that you organized for us yesterday, Sandra, I was reflecting on this morning, and I could think of at least 10 or 15 female friends who could benefit from this. So I think you've started a great initiative. You should be so proud of yourself.
Thank
And
you.
you are that agent of change, what we're looking for. Um, and I'm ever so grateful to get the opportunity actually to be part of that journey. So thank you.
Divya.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then just for the listeners, in terms of what you're talking about. So last night, Ellect launched Ellect Women, which is an event, and it's going to be a monthly event. So last night was the launch, that we foster a network of women who are interested in leadership or in leadership roles, as well as in board roles, because the purpose is to build up those networks and to bring opportunities to them. And last night the format that I started was an intimate. I just wanted to have 20, and we got 20 intimate group. It took it was all put together in 3 weeks when I got the encouragement to go ahead and do it. And it was also, the event was supported by City Chats Group, so they sponsored it to help me, I guess, trying to achieve what I'm trying to achieve. And these 20 women, amazing women, lovely women, and we were very clear, weren't we, that the code, and I'm calling it the code of behavior, not that I needed to explain that, but it was naturally there, was about collaboration, was about kindness, was about supportive, because that really matters to me a lot. That we have a very supportive network, and there are other women's network, and there's other women's group, and I don't think this is going to, it's not trying to compete with any of them. It's like, let's all collaborate, let's be part of this, and let's just massively change the numbers, where this is the space, if you're looking for women leaders and board members, I want to make Ellect Women the group to come to, type of thing. And so that was a good start. And I was really pleased. You were talking about reflecting it. I was also reflecting it about it. I woke up with a smile, and I told my husband, is that I really loved last night, sorry. And I love that after the event, nobody left. Not everybody left. Some had to go home. And some just kept talking and kept talking. And this morning, my emails blew up with thank you emails. And also, this is what I love about women, feedback. I got like 10 bullet points of things I could improve on, and others had similar feedback. So these feedback, and also I think we had a little chat before this recording, but this feedback is because everybody wants to make this work, and helping me to make this work with the feedback, so that it can be better, so that we can make something out of this and grow this. So that was something I was really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this morning, as soon as I walked into the office, the girls were like, wow, how good was the event? And then the boys were like, oh, so it seems like you girls have fun. And we started chatting about it, and they were like, oh, wow, what a great initiative. I think I mean, it was so nice to see the boys in the office like supporting it, and they were just so happy for us. So that was really, really good to see and exciting. And that's, again, going back to the culture, like not every male colleague will support these kind of the initiative, for example. Like they're like, yeah, great, well done, but not actually getting involved in the conversation and supporting you. And that's what we had this morning as I walked into the office. So that was really good.
Amazing. Because I was going to say that, because you have obviously Kerwin, the CEO, from the top down, really cascading that vision and the culture from the top. But when in the past, when I was working in the corporate sector, and I was a volunteer, I mentioned, part of the international NGO, and and sometimes I would have to take time off. Sometimes I'll come back from the event. I want to talk about it. But the guys in the office would say, oh, Sandra's off to a secret women business, or make some snide jokes and that sort of stuff, because it wasn't something that I could openly say, hey, I'm a feminist and this is what I'm trying to do. But I didn't hide it either, but I had to, in a way, be careful. So tell me again, I know that you just briefly touched upon it, but how are the men involved in your company to make this collaborative work and to make this culture work?
Look, it again, yeah, going back to starts from the top, I think Kerwin is someone who actually shares a lot of his personal journey. And that's one of our value is we practice open and honest communication. So that gives everyone a platform to speak up and empower. And some of the guys in the office, they have wives, daughters, so they know I suppose they are exposed to that sort of environment in that sense, like the gender equality perspective. And then we have I suppose team connects and things like that, where you could open up and you could talk about it, and it's a safe space. So that's what it's encouraged. So for example, someone like me, I don't want to call myself feminist, but I do stand up for female leaders, and I do have ideas and things that we work on with our HR manager. And it is very much support. So they are already getting exposure to all that, and they contribute to those sort of conversations. So it again, there's no strategy around it. It's just organic, natural. It just flows. And I can't pinpoint that this is specifically, that's what we do. And that's why, apart from Kerwin has built this culture from day dot. And it may not be for everyone. We do have employees who will come in and stay maybe for max 2 months, month, and leave. But that's okay, because that's not something that they want in their journey. And we are not afraid to call out any nasty behaviors or any.
That's good.
We're not afraid. And if I have to have a conversation, I would say, in the spirit of open and honest communication, I see X, Y, and Z. So everyone is held accountable for their behavior. And it is a safe space. So everyone is empowered, encouraged, and then everyone kind of comes forward with their best behaviors. And some of the culture initiatives that's always been present in the organization is like, we have Wednesday wins. So good or small, not bad Wednesday wins, good or small, sorry. Good, it can have a big win or small win, doesn't matter, but we celebrate that. So everyone in the company actually goes in. We have a Facebook group, Team Facebook group. You go and celebrate there. And then Thank You Thursdays, where you just thank you anyone, like it could be your colleague or it could be your barista, whoever. Who made your day, as today or this week, or whoever you want to thank. So it's just, can you see the culture perspective? And then and then we have Valza Awards as well, once a month, where we acknowledge team members and also nominate. And then we have a sloth frame that we pass it on whoever wins the Valza Award.
The sloth frame.
It's just, sloth is in the frame. Sorry, that's what I meant. Okay. But it just goes around whoever wins it. It's just a fun, jokey thing, but within the organization. But it's again a celebration. So we have all those platforms. We have weekly huddles. Again, if there are any bottlenecks or anything you're thinking about that you want to bring it to the table, just not with your department, but actually at a company level, by all means, every Monday, 11:07, we have our weekly huddles. You can bring that up and talk about it.
11:07?
I don't know, actually, because it's funny why 11:07, because maybe, I don't know, they didn't
make everybody on time kind of thing, like to remember
sort
the time.
Of. Yeah, I think so. Sort of, because Mondays are a very busy day for everyone, right? So it could be that. I actually don't know why. But come to think of it, that could be the reason why it's 11:07. So it's just that platform that all that has been created for the team members to feel empowered. And then just if they hear it from CEO, other female leaders, so I suppose the men in the organization, they automatically feel aligned, because I'm sure they have, in their personal lives, wives, girlfriends, children, kids, girls, whatever.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what you've actually essentially described are, let me take a step back.
Yeah.
So the companies, when they want to shift the culture, they would try and drive like quotas, have policies, have programs, have certain things to try and drive the change and not necessarily succeed in some of them, because like maybe the culture is so strong, and I'm not trying to make any assumption, but what's interesting that what you've described, and yes, start from the top, but all of the platforms, you actually have policies in a way when you think about it, because you talked about the values that's already on the forefront of a board, isn't it? When you walk into the office, everybody knows what the
everyone. And actually, when you do, for example, when we do our Wowzers Awards nominations or acknowledgement, we have to at least bring one of our values, why we are acknowledging this person. So for example, I'd like to nominate Sandra, and my value is we say thank you, and I'll then go on to the reason why. So yeah. So we are family. We say thank you. We practice open and honest communication. We innovate and constantly improve. We respond quickly and things like that. Yeah. So some of the values. Yeah.
I'm really impressed because, yes, it may have started from day dot, but it's kept up with it. It's rolled it out, and in a reasonable sized company as well.
Yeah.
And so that, it is possible. It is doable.
Yeah.
And I love like hearing about it. And you know what, I can keep going, but I think I need to wrap this up soon. But I just wanted to also touch upon one thing. You briefly touched on the recruitment side of it, do you have any particular way, like are there any structure in terms of the recruitment that helps you get the right fit into the culture or be able to attract diverse candidates?
Yeah, look, again, it's it's organic. We don't have any strategy as such for this, but it is what we look for is who is a good fit in terms of the culture perspective. So we don't look at whether it's he, she. And we involved a different, I guess, stakeholders as well in the interview process. So, we may think, so we do have K-Team Awards every year. So whoever has received a Values Champion Award, as an example, a trophy for that, we probably include that person to just have one-on-one interview to see if that person if this candidate would be culturally fit for the organization. So we have like a diverse, inclusive interview panel. So just not from the experience perspective, we also want to make sure that that person can actually be culturally fit. And I think that is the topmost for us. And then I guess experience is important, but I think culture is pretty important to us. And if you also look at our current structure where we have female leaders, we have young mums, where when they started, we knew like 3 months or 4 months after, they were pregnant, 2 of them, I suppose. And the company then, helped them through the process, the journey, whatever as an employer we could do. And one of my colleagues, she just decided to work completely remotely from home because she didn't want to put the baby in the childcare, which was fine. So, and that was very much appreciated by the organization. We did see the baby coming in and saying hello, or guest appearances, which was very much okay by everyone. And so it is that, do you know what I mean? Like in terms of the recruitment process, it is more around who can actually do the role and who is culturally fit for the organization. Wow. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing all that insight. You're being, I have to say, you're being very humble in the organic culture in terms of like saying it just happens, but all of these, what you talk about and what you sound so proud of the culture that has been developed and remained and spread across to every single employee. That is something it's really good to see. And the fact that it the flexibility, like I think it's people first. The company is about people first.
That's right.
and
Yeah.
and and yes, the skill set and experience, yes, it's important, but the focus is very much people first. That has made this work and help the company to be Australian leading business specialist.
Yeah.
So
And knowingly or unknowingly, we have been doing from the ESG part, the S part really well, because every year around April, May, HR manager and I go through everyone's salaries and their job title and experience to make sure they are paid market rate. So in our organization, we don't have a gender gap pay at all. That doesn't even exist.
excellent.
So again, so that's sort of like, we just do it. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? We've
yeah.
been doing it for many years. So that's again a great initiative from the business that's just been there from day one.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Like I said, I could just keep talking to you, Divya, but I think I need to wrap this up.
Me too. I'm so passionate.
Well, thank you so much for participating in this podcast. And it's also great. Thank you. Great seeing you last night at the launch event for Ellect Women. And I'm glad that you and your colleagues got a lot out of it from the event. And I appreciate you sharing your insights. And I think from this perspective, like this podcast, it just shows that the culture can drive diversity and profitability at the same time.
100%. And thank you, Sandra, for having me. And thank you for taking the time to getting to know me and the organization. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Divya. So, folks, this is it. This is actually going to be our last podcast of the year. I'm going to be taking a bit of a longer Christmas break. And so we will have the next one in February next year. So on this note, everybody, enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas. And I look forward to seeing an amazing 2024. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors. Firstly, we're sponsored by B2Buy. B2Buy is your trusted business buying platform that simplifies and automates your buying process, helping you buy smarter and faster, giving you greater visibility and value. With 100,000 products in one place, B2Buy is passionate about connecting diverse suppliers with corporate buyers, so you can create a more inclusive business environment and buy better with www.b2buy.online. Our second sponsor is Holman Webb Lawyers, an award-winning and dynamic full-service Australian law firm with offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Adelaide. Not only do Holman Webb offer comprehensive legal services, but they are also a proud recipient of the Ellect Star, recognizing their commitment to achieving gender equality and leadership. Discover more about their services, initiatives and industry-leading insights at www.holmanwebb.com.au. Lastly, our sponsor, the CEO Magazine, is an iconic, global media brand that inspires and promotes excellence within the business world. It is a source of information, inspiration and motivation for the world's most successful leaders, executives, investors and entrepreneurs. Go to www.thesiomagazine.com.